Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world who are here sharing their expertise and wisdom so we can all grow together. I'm Heidi Schalk, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're excited to have you here, and you're in for a real treat because I mentioned we have guests from all over the world, and our guest today, Gary Miller, is in Germany. So how exciting. To the Business Growth Spotlight. I'm excited to be talking with you about Human Charger.
Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate the offer to be on your podcast and looking forward to it. I think you're going to find the Human Charger is a fascinating device that's literally been hiding in Europe for over a decade.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to learn about it. I've done a little research and I'm highly intrigued. So let's dive in. So Gary, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about Human Charger, and your role within the organization?
Yes, I'm an eclectic blend. Okay, I'm a professional skier that became an Olympic team coach.
Wow.
That has then got out of the business and became a serial entrepreneur. And in between my ski careers, I spent 20 years designing, developing, and manufacturing sports bags and luggage for a lot of different sports companies in the US. So instead of going back and forth to Europe, I was going back and forth to Asia all the time. So, which is kind of interesting. And then I went back to the national team again in 2014 and 15. And but you know, when you have kids at home, and I was on the road for 6 months almost solid, yeah, that makes it a little bit tough. So kind of pulled back from that a bit. And my wife and I were taking a ski trip to Austria and ran into an old colleague of mine here in Garmisch, Germany, who introduced us to a gentleman who was now the new owner of this unique little transcranial bright light device called the Human Charger. And that's sort of how I got from one to the other. And when we discovered this product, and they had never sold it in the US, my first thought as a professional coach was, I wonder if my athletes could benefit from this. My wife was a little bit different. She suffers from panic disorder and some anxiety. So she knew about seasonal depression, which is what it was originally designed for.
Okay.
And so, you know, she knew about that and she was eager to try it. So, yeah, that's kind of how we kind of just fell upon this thing. It wasn't something we were looking for, but one thing led to another, and all of a sudden, here we are. We're responsible for the U.S. market and a few others too that we have connections with.
That's exciting. I love how when I talk to people just like you who are like, you would have never thought 10 years ago or 20 years ago that you'd be doing what you're doing now, but everything you've done, every step you've taken, every choice you've made has led you to here, which is really fascinating. Can you share with us what is the Human Charger? The name itself is very interesting and intriguing. So can you tell us about this device?
Yes, it is interesting. This device came out of a name you'll find familiar. If you remember Nokia, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody had a Nokia phone before the iPhone came out. And then Nokia was a little bit asleep at the wheel and sales were dropping off and everyone wanted an iPhone. So there was an engineer and a scientist at Nokia that broke off and decided to do something for Finland because obviously they're way north. They have long winters. It's dark a lot and they have a lot of seasonal depression. So they started in a laboratory and they started looking at light because most people, when they have seasonal depression, they end up staring at a lamp, right, for an hour. I mean, that's what still is the primary seasonal depression remedy in the US is staring at a SAD lamp. They call them a SAD lamp.
Wow.
And seasonal affective disorder. So they look at these SAD lamps, but you know what our lives are like today. You don't have time to wake up in the morning and sit at your desk 6 inches away from a lamp staring at it for an hour. You got things to do. You know, the world moves fast. And so anyway, they started developing this and they found that transcranial bright light, which means light that goes through your ear canal because your eardrum is translucent, the bone structure around your ear is thin, and it reaches the hypothalamus and the areas that are responsible for the hormones that regulate your circadian rhythm, your biological clock. And they found that it's much faster. You can put those earbuds in, you get the same 10,000 lux of bright light, but it only takes 12 minutes and it's done and it's over. So, when we first got one and we tried it, my wife was the first one to try it because she does suffer from a little seasonal depression. And within a week, she's like, oh my God, I've never been able to get up in the morning at 6:30, be wide awake. She said, it's regulated my clock enough where I can feel I'm not sluggish when I get up in the morning. I put it on, runs for 12 minutes, automatically shuts off, and I go about my day. Now, it has morphed into where if she's got a slump in the afternoon, she'll put that in and she'll get a boost of energy. Now, it's not instant. It's weird. It's about 50, and everybody's different, but it's about 15 to 30 minutes. All of a sudden, you're awake. And you're like, wow, that's strange. And I'll get to more of that on the coaching side of it, because I got coaches out there that are experiencing the same thing. So, and then I started thinking, okay, I started getting into the science of bright light and how important it is. And I never realized it. I'm coaching the athletes at the highest level and I had no clue how light affects our circadian rhythm and how it keeps us healthier. It helps keeps our energy up. And so I was fascinated by it and I started using it. For me, because I don't have the same maladies that my wife has, okay, I notice an increased focus. I'm just sharper. When I use it in the morning, 30 minutes later, whether I'm at the computer or I'm out exercising, I'm really ultra focused.
Wow.
So the guys in Finland, when they were doing this, they also tried it on the Finnish pro hockey teams. And they found that the psychomotor speed, which is the reaction time, has sped up. And again, it's related to light because they're playing in an arena that only has maybe 1,200 lux of light in it. So it may seem bright, but it's only bright because it's in a closed area. But it's the same. It'd be a night football game. You'd get about the same lux of light. And as what you would get on a cloudy day. And on a cloudy day, you don't always get enough light. You'll notice it more if you're in an environment where you get a lot of cloudy days.
Right.
Or you get like they experience in Finland, where it changes from the south to the north. We used to go to World Cup races up in Levy, which is just at the Arctic Circle, and the sun comes up, in between middle of November to middle of February, the sun comes up at 10 o'clock in the morning and goes down at 2.
Wow. Right. Like Seattle, Washington. This would be great for people that are living out there, or Alaska, or, certain areas of the world. There's, you don't get as long as a period of light out there. So Gary, you mentioned circadian rhythm. Why is circadian rhythm so important for overall health?
Well, it's your biological clock, okay? Yeah. It regulates all of your hormones. And this is where it gets interesting, because even though the product was originally developed for seasonal depression, there were rumors that it would work for jet lag. And I thought, oh my God, that's great. Because I'll tell you, traveling back and forth to Europe or Asia.
Yeah. It's
it's horrible. It's really tough on your system. And, we're kind of in an interesting time. The world is upgrading machines faster than we're upgrading humans, right? And we're essentially, as a human being, we're running first century software, okay, on 1,000-year-old operating system. They don't always line up. Jet travel came to us really quickly. And then all of a sudden we're going across time zones, and our biological clock can't figure that out that quickly. So of course you fly from, New York to Munich, and you've gone through 6 time zones, and you arrive in the morning, and then by noon, 1 o'clock, you're dying. You want to go to sleep so bad you can't stand it, right? And of course, then you don't sleep great that night, and then it's even worse on the second day. So we started experimenting with athletes in the beginning, and then it started to be corporate executives, and we're like, okay, give this a go. And these were people that travel a lot, and all of a sudden, in 2 days, I mean, they're back to normal. Just like that. And all this is doing, all the bright light is doing, is it's speeding up your circadian rhythm. Every 2 hours, you use it 4 to 5 times a day, the first 2 days at your destination, and it speeds it up, and then you sleep well the first night. You do the same thing the second day, 4 or 5 times a day. You'll sleep great on the second night, which is usually the tough night, and then you don't have jet lag. It's crazy. We've never seen anything like it. I would have killed to have this 30 years ago. Absolutely killed to have it, because you can't. Some people swear by melatonin, but not everyone, because it's a hormone, not everyone can take melatonin and have it work. And it's really a sleep aid anyway, right? It's how your circadian rhythm works. 40 years ago, Heidi, we woke up with the sun, and we went to bed at night when it got dark.
Right.
That was great. Now you add in computers, tablets, and these crazy mobile phones, and everybody's got blue light staring them in the face, which is totally screwing up the circadian rhythm. You know? And that's why today with kids, they're so depressed, because they're on the phone,
right,
on social media, and they go home, and instead of being active and playing outside, and then coming in, being tired, and then going to bed, they come in, and even if they were active, they come in and they sit in bed and they do this and they scroll.
That's my son.
And it keeps this, the circadian rhythm is so messed up, then they can't sleep at night, and then and then depression. And I don't know if you've seen the stats, but it's got to be over 80% with most kids today in schools have some type of depression. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So, the more we got into this light thing, the more we discovered, we need to help people. And it really runs the gamut.
Yeah. So it's great for people with seasonal depression. It's great for people with other types of depression. It's great for people in the sports space. And it sounds like it's great for families and business people who are traveling a lot, or just business people in general, because it's sharpening their mind as well and keeping them, helping with focus, which I know for me, it's easy, especially if you're working on the computer and you're doing any type of business online. It's easy to get, right, with a shiny object syndrome or whatever, or, scrolling, and all of a sudden you're down this deep hole because something caught your attention. So I think this is phenomenal. So is this good? Because I have children, so I'm going to ask this question. Is this good for, say, this device where a family could have it and then they all share it, since it's only 12 minutes, or is it set differently for different ages and different, say male, female?
No, it's really simple. I mean, this device is so simple, it's almost crazy. The original human charger was basically patterned after the iPod. If you remember the iPod,
Yes.
Where it had the music, and then you put a cable with the earbuds, and it was fine. But since you were only having it on for 12 minutes, it didn't make sense to have music in it as well. And most people have their own earbuds, and they have their own things that they do. This is really designed for one purpose. I mean, it's designed to be able to take and put around your neck, hit the button. You've got 10,000 lux of light in each earbud. You put it in your ears, you look at a clock, figure 12 minutes from now, and then you do your thing.
Well, I could do this while I'm walking or on the treadmill, walking the dog. If you could walk the dog around the neighborhood, and it takes me more than 12 minutes to walk the dog around the neighborhood.
And then eventually it goes off, and that's it.
Amazing.
The guys that I work with now that are the second owners of the human charger, because the guys from Nokia, they're scientists, okay? They're not marketing specialists. So they didn't really know how to sell the thing. And, but this thing, they wanted to keep it priced reasonably, And, they started looking into the Bluetooth and all sort of things like this. And I never realized this, but Bluetooth, not only is it a technology, but if you wanted to put Bluetooth in this thing, you got to pay them like 12 grand a year just for the licensing.
Wow.
So, and it didn't make sense to put music in it. It just didn't. So it's basically really simple. It's really effective. And it's, instead of a sad lamp, you've got this little device in a pouch, goes in your purse, your briefcase, your knapsack, whatever. You can travel with it. You go to the office with it. You can leave it in your car.
I was just going to ask you what makes it different than a sad lamp besides the 12 minutes in the hour timeline, because nobody has, let's face it. I love that it's portable. For those of you who are not watching us on YouTube, you couldn't see the device, but we're going to share with you where you can go to see it and learn more about it towards the end of our conversation. But it's very portable. It looks like a set of headphones, and that you just kind of, or, AirPods that you just stick in your ear with the thing that goes over your head. So it's very portable, very easy, very lightweight, and and obviously 12 minutes. So you could do this while you're making breakfast. You could do this while you're reading. You can do this while you're multitasking. Whereas with the lamp, like you said, you're sitting there staring at it for an hour. And then we're supposed to still read a book, exercise, do a morning routine. Like, we don't have to, who has time for that, Gary?
Yeah, nobody has time for it. So for example, I get up in the morning and I, go and make my cup of tea. I don't drink coffee, but like my wife, but I can put that thing on and, I go through my little morning routine and it's done. Then it's over and I don't have to worry about it. Now, you asked about kids. You could probably share one. The tricky part is that, the earbuds, they come with a little package of 3 different sizes of earbuds. So everyone's ears are a little bit different, right? In a family, it's one thing but if you were in an office setting, you wouldn't want to share it with your office mate. Hygienically, it's just not the thing to do. Yeah. But with kids, if you had one that the kids used at the breakfast table in the morning, and you had one for you or you and your husband or whatever, because you will want to take it with you.
That's true. Yeah.
And a friend of mine, I was just on the phone with, who's in Park City, Utah, before I jumped on with you. He's using he's a coach, and he was asking about the fact that, can we share it? And it's like, well, you don't really need to, you don't share it.
Do this for you. Get one, it's yours. Do this for you.
You will take it with you,
and
use it. And
it's like earpods. I can tell you, in my house, we all need our own, because, and even when I have my own, they still disappear with my teenagers. So I wouldn't want this disappearing. That's for sure. I'd want to take, and like you said, like, I get a slump in the afternoon. So I'm probably going to be more like your wife, where I'll do it in the morning. And then I'd probably around 2 p.m. pop them in again before I have to go get my son, because that's where I start dipping down and need like a 20-minute nap.
Yeah, well, it's either that, or you're gonna hit Starbucks or
make another coffee.
Give yourself a jolt. But the tricky thing is, as I mentioned with the coaches before, it's like if they're driving back from a training area and it's an hour or so, and they've been out in the cold, it's a 4-hour session, they're tired because they're lugging around equipment and everything else. They get in the van and all of a sudden they get a little punchy. This thing is great. And it doesn't have a coffee, or I shouldn't say coffee. I shouldn't isolate coffee or Red Bull, but it doesn't have a caffeine crash.
Right. Which they're terrible, those crashes.
Yeah. And it's just you're awake and it just keeps going. And that's what it's designed to do. It's just naturally tweaking your biological clock and resetting it a bit, which is really key.
Yeah.
One category, I was going to mention the battery. Okay, it's got a little lithium ion battery. You charge it through a USB-C port. Takes 30, 40 minutes. If you're only using it once a day, it'll last almost a month before you have to recharge it. So it's really efficient. I mean, it works well that way. But yeah, it's a clever device. It really is.
Absolutely. So I know we went through some, but are there any people that we forgot? Like, who should be using bright light therapy?
I would say nearly everybody, because there is an application. I mean, that's really broad, and I know it may sound like a marketing pitch. It really isn't. But with everything today, okay, with all of our devices. We're not operating like we used to operate. I'm down the road far enough where I was a kid back then when all we did was play outside, and then you come in and you crash, you go to bed. Well, this thing isn't, the phones have been the biggest problem with all of this. And I think almost everyone can really benefit from it. Some people will notice it for mild depression. Some will notice it with anxiety. Some it might help their sleep. It helps with my focus. The one I would say outside of jet lag, which is a huge category, the other one that's a silent killer out there that nobody really knows about, but it's horrible, is shift work.
What is that again?
Shift work, warehouses, oil rigs, warehouses at night, data centers, night traders. I mean, the people that work in the nights, that's when, you can take that.
The nurses, police officers, firemen, 4 days on, 4 days off, that type of thing.
First responders, night shift. And I'll send you some information because it's really important to understand the illnesses and maladies that come from night shift. It's a dangerous occupation and most people don't know about it.
Yeah.
Because your biology is not meant to do that. It's but we're a fast-paced world nowadays. So people work at nights. I mean, my nephew he works for DHL, but he goes to work at, I want to say, probably 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then he works till, I don't know, 1, 2 in the morning or something like that. And it's made a world of difference in his routine.
Yeah.
Just, because it'll reset. And technically, shift work is considered social jet lag. That's what they call it, because the symptoms are very similar. And all you're doing is using this multiple times in a night shift to get on that schedule. Then you go home and you sleep for your 8 hours, and then you go back to work. If you did that the first 2 days, you're on your night shift. And then when the weekend comes and you're back on day shifts, then you start using it 4 or 5 times a day to get back on that schedule. So it helped, but it keeps people healthy. And I remember one of our friends here in Germany, their neighbor has worked at Volkswagen the night shift for the past, God, I want to say 15 years. And he's sick all the time. And we tried to get him on, but he's kind of old school, so he wasn't too excited to use something like that. But yeah, I mean, some people are fine without it, but it's really had a significant impact on a lot of people's lives. I mean, we've got athletes in the Olympics now that are using it, and
think about their jet lag, traveling to another country I think they have to get there early just to kind of move through that. And this would definitely, quicken that recovery time. So we talked about safety a little bit, but anything else you want to share for those people like the gentleman who works the night shift and a little old school, and they're thinking, this is just, another thing that I'm supposed to try. Can you talk about its safety, and also, is it affordable, the affordability of it?
Yeah. Safety wise, nobody's ever really seen anything that's bad about it. It's just light. Mm-hmm. It's probably safer than going out in the morning and staring at the sun. Yeah. It's 10,000 lux of full spectrum UV, or what do they call it? It's UVB. It's UV free. I mean, it doesn't, you don't get the sun ultraviolet that's bad for your skin. Okay. So it's super safe. We've not found anybody yet that has gotten anything, has developed anything from it.
Right. Any adverse effects?
There's no adverse effects. I mean, it's about as simple as it gets. I mean, the athletes really like it because obviously today with doping control, if you're at the Olympics and you podium, your first job when the results are posted is you go in and you pee in a cup. That's just what happens. Before they give anybody a medal, they test them. And with light, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And there have been some incidences like that. Tennis, Number 2 in the world, Iga Swiatek from Poland. She took melatonin last year, but it was tainted. So she ended up under fire from the WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Association. And it cost her money because she got to hire an attorney to fight the fight. And it wasn't her fault. But, that this kind of stuff happens. And I think maybe for the American public, the one thing that surprises me the most about, living in Europe right now, compared to when I was living in the States, is America is so hooked on pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
We are a pill popping society, and it's not good for us. So for example, I'll give you the best example. Over here, you can only buy ibuprofen in a pack of maybe 20 or 30, and they're in blister packs. Okay. You can't walk into a convenience store, excuse me, a gas station, a grocery store, and buy a bottle of 300 Tylenols or ibuprofens. You can't do that.
Wow.
You can only buy ibuprofen at a apothec, a pharmacy here, and you can only buy them in those small quantities. People use the outdoors, they walk, they do all these things to remedy pain and things like that. And I know this is a little bit off topic, but this is a safer alternative, okay, than taking something that would boost you. Like, I don't know, I wouldn't know what kind of medications you could take, but people take stuff to give them a little boost. And it's like, no, you don't want this stuff. You want to keep it natural.
Natural, especially with all the light we're getting from the computers and all that extra stuff that we don't need it. Anything we can do to lessen it in other areas is great. So let's talk a little bit about marketing. How are you handle the US market? What are the ways that are working for you as far as visibility and getting out there and bringing this from, because you said that before you learned about this wasn't being promoted in the US at all. So what are the things that you're doing to get in front of your ICP or the people that can use this? And who are they? Are you working with clinics? Are you trying to get in there? Is it more in the sports arena right now? Are there certain niches that you're starting with and then going to broaden from there? That's a lot of questions, I know.
Yeah, we're dipping our toes into some of these markets because it's, the American market is different than the European market. And I won't go into that. It's not, they're similar, but there are some differences. I think in the US, Americans have to travel a lot. The jet lag market is a big one for us. We believe that this is a really great product for people to travel, because if you're in the States and you want to go to Europe in the summer, okay, yeah, you get more sunlight, but you want to come to Europe, crossing 6 time zones, 8 time zones, 9 time zones, whether you're in the West Coast or the East Coast, okay, you're going to have jet lag, no matter how bright the sun is when you land over here in the summer. Okay. And if you're coming for a week vacation, the last thing you want to do is feel like junk the first 3 to 4 days. That's a killer, because then you've ruined half of your vacation. So, that's a big market, and we're targeting those through some social media avenues. Concierge medical, because those people are a little bit more, I think they're a little more focused on doing more wellness type of, products versus just getting a prescription.
Right.
Concierge medical is
that it takes to stay healthy. Yeah. They're being proactive ahead of the illness versus the ones that are trying to find the remedy for the illness as they have it. So this device is great for being proactive with your health. Yeah.
We're dipping into the night shift and the social jet lag more. It's not always easy to get into some of those, because some of those companies are so big, whether it's a warehouse at Amazon or it's a data center somewhere with Google or whatever. Those are difficult, and they're difficult because the healthcare comes into play, right? Is it, then they start asking about HIPAA and all sorts of weird stuff, right? This does not need to be FDA approved, and it's not, doesn't require it. But those markets outside of concierge medical have been a little tougher to get into. The corporate traveler, that's huge. because the C-suite executives, these guys are so taxed. Most of them, they work long days. They travel a lot. If you knew the dollar amount of lost productivity for people that suffer jet lag, it's staggering. It's in the tens of millions of dollars that companies will lose. You fly overseas and you sit in a boardroom and you don't have your act together, make the wrong call.
And they don't get time. It's not like they're flying out a week early to get acclimated before their meetings to move through or 3 days earlier. They're showing up and the next day they're on, because again, it's all about the money and getting you to those meetings, make the sale and then come home or go to the next country. I know my parents travel, and my mom, when she'll go travel, like she's good for the first few days. And then, but it's the trip home that really kills them. They're done for days after they get home. And can you imagine, they're retired? Can you imagine if you're working and you get a week off or 2 weeks off and you're like, we're going to go to Europe, or we're going to go overseas, depending on where you are. And then, but you don't want to cut the trip short to make sure that you're recovering from the jet lag before you go back to work. You want to maximize that time. This will help people maximize that time versus coming home and then they're like having to go to work, having to step back into their responsibilities and fully lagged along with it. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. It's going to make the problem, because I used to be like, I need to get home 2 days before work because I need time to decompress and get organized. And with this, you can come back and, readjust your circadian rhythm, which is great.
Well, and then the other category that I think is really important are sports and athletics. So we had a dozen players from the San Francisco 49ers that were using it this year. They had a game in London, and the NFL wants to have 16 games overseas in 5 years. Wow. So they're increasing these numbers of overseas games because the NFL is really trying to spread its wings. That's important. We developed a protocol for them, which I think worked really well. We're looking at collegiate sports because I was a former D1 athlete at the University of Colorado. I know how hard it is to be a D1 athlete, manage your studies, manage your training, your competition, and it's even worse today. And now with all this conference realignments, most of these sports teams are traveling all over the country. They were more regionalized before.
Right.
So, there's things like this that can really help athletes and kids in school.
Yeah.
And if we can do anything to help fight the depressive state of some of our students,
right.
It's a game changer for that. And I didn't answer your question before, and I apologize. The price of this thing retails for $179.
Oh, wow.
So it's not expensive. It's affordable for most people. We've got people out there using this that have been using this for 6-7 years. So it's not something that can be destroyed very easily.
A cell phone's $800 and it's not healthy for you.
No. Yeah, exactly. Right. No, that's a great comparison. Yeah.
And I think it's great. And I have a son diagnosed with ADHD, and, I know both me and their father my daughter thinks she's ADD and the focus issues. And so I think this is fantastic, because I can only imagine that people with those ADHD, those types of things, especially children, he's on medication. I was not a fan of that. I'm not one that's going to jump into that, but weighing all of our options, we really didn't have a choice. And we saw a big transition once we found the one that works best for him. That being said, I would love to find another alternative for him versus the medication. And you can see as children become teenagers, their attitude, the way they converse changes. And now that we have these phones and these devices, and he's always playing in these games or he's talking to his friends, and I can see the shift happening. And I'm like, I don't want him to go down that road. And 80% of these kids have depression. That's a very scary number. So I love that this device is available. I love the price point. I think it's fantastic. I really thought it was going to be triple that. So when you said 179, I almost fell out of my chair. So that's great news. So how are you, before we share with everybody how they can go grab it, because now they should be running to grab it. How are you talking to these people? Are you just reaching out? Is it through social media and awareness, education, or what are the methods of the ways that you're getting out there? in both sides of the coin, Gary, what's working or what's worked for you? And also, have you tried some things marketing or visibility wise that just haven't gotten the results that you had hoped for, or you expected to get better?
Yeah, it's a little complicated because, like I said, this kind of fell in our lap, and we see the benefit of it. I think it's got real legs. I mean, it's the only product of its kind in the world, and it's patented, which is nice, and it serves a real purpose. I think one of the mistakes we made is we came out with our own website. The European company has humancharger.com, and it can be ordered through humancharger.com, which is fine. We had humancharger.us, and 95% of people go to a .com. So it really wasn't effective for us. We can do orders to sports teams and things like that, concierge medical, but most individuals would go to humancharger.com. We have another workaround that I think we're going to try to do and utilize TikTok more for more promotion. We've got some influencers with some pretty big, especially on the sports side, with some pretty big numbers, followers. So that's one area. We're also going direct to a lot of people in the corporate world because those are oftentimes the tougher ones to reach. And we're going direct to them. And then the company in Europe does a lot of ads on Google. So they reach a lot, but they do more of that in the seasonal depression months, which is October through March. And we're going to more of the jet lag, shift work sort of sports thing. And we're trying to carry that through the summer, spring, summer, fall, right? So it's a little bit of we're sticking our toes in the water a little bit here and there. We've got some great connections. We are also on sam.gov. That took me quite a few months to do that. So we can sell to first responders, military, law enforcement, things like that.
Oh, that's great.
So, I think it's just a matter of awareness. It's doing podcasts like yours that bring awareness to people that like, oh my God, you mean I don't have to stare at a lamp? All I need to do is put this on. And it's AI is even starting to play a little bit into it. Some of these podcasts that I've done, they're like, hey, we've got AI that can help direct you to the right influencers, or we can get you to the corporate world. So we're doing kind of, I guess it's grassroots.
Right.
It's a little unorthodox, but again, we don't have, thousands of dollars to spend on advertising, which I don't think is really that effective anymore. The markets are flooded with ads and even social media. We did quite a bit of that, but unless you've got a really good reach and you're really good at it, which is why the TikTok influencers are doing so well, because they are really good at what they do.
I'm just thinking, if you're going to do ads, I would say your best time would be holidays time, which the ad prices are higher because everybody with a product is out there. But I can see how, especially at your price point, that would be an effective driver for sales, because people are thinking about, oh, what can I do outside the box to get something for my family member or my loved one or whatever, especially, or me as a parent for my teenagers who I know could benefit from this. But yeah, again, it's definitely, if you don't know what you're doing with advertising, with paid ads, it's a gamble. So until you have that really dialed in, you should, if you're going to invest in the other ways, the automations and things like that, and the outreach, that would be more beneficial for you. So if I could give you a magic wand, Gary, and you can wave it over one challenge you're having right now that you go poof and take it away, what would that be and why?
I think it's just getting to the right people, getting to the key people that can make decisions. And so, for example, I would rather send you 2 human chargers, okay, than to do an ad in something else, because you have a broad reach, you've got a great platform. And to me, I think in the beginning with a product like this that America has really never seen, although we've sold a lot into the US, but not near where it should be.
Right.
And as crazy as this sounds, the SAD lamps, that market worldwide is over $650 million a year, and it's growing at 6 to 8%. So people are still buying those crazy lamps where this thing, could be so much more effective. And so, I think it's just for us, it's more about getting in front of people that are key decision makers. And even if you walked into your school and said, "Oh my God, my kid, this made a difference in my," why wouldn't a school invest in something like that?
Exactly. Right.
I mean, come on, and even if it was a pilot study, they're going to take it home. It's just a matter of growing it.
Yeah. Grassroots.
But we want to be passionately involved in it. I think advertising can be a little bit cold, and I would rather connect with somebody and have them understand it and have them utilize it, and then go, "Hey, I know where I can take this. I know where this can go," and be passionate about it. And
yeah, for sure. So Gary, how can people connect with you and also go get the human charger?
Well, yeah, they can go on humancharger.com, and that's probably the easiest way right now because we're converting our site into a Shopify site. So we're in a little bit of a transition, but the Human Charger guys take good care of us, so that's not a problem. And then they can reach out to me direct at gary@humancharger.us. That's easy enough.
Perfect. Well, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. Gary and I say hello and appreciate you. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, thank you. We're grateful and appreciate you. Please share this episode to anyone you believe would benefit from hearing from Gary and learning more about the human charger, which I think is everybody. I can't think of anybody who wouldn't benefit, but if you know of if you're thinking of somebody specifically, please share this with them. This is how we help our guests grow their businesses. Gary's here sharing his wisdom and expertise on what's worked for him, what hasn't worked for him in the growth of his business. And we want to reciprocate that by sharing this episode with as many people as we can. If you're enjoying this podcast, we would love a 5-star review. If you're on your favorite podcast platform, that helps the podcast platform push this episode out to more people. So when they see interaction happening, we'll push it out to more people so they can learn about the human charger. We need more people producing more, living happier lives, waking up refreshed and being able to enjoy their life when they're traveling or, really living their full potential in their athletics. If you have children like I do, teenagers who you feel would benefit, because I know mine would, please take a look at the human charger. Gary, before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to share or say that I didn't get to ask you or we didn't talk about today?
No, I think you hit on all points, Heidi. This has been wonderful. Again, these types of platforms I think are so important because you have a dedicated audience, and that's the best way is to spread word of mouth because they're going to trust what you have to say, and hopefully your guests. But it's I think it's a game changer of a product, and if it wasn't, I wouldn't be involved with it. I've seen a lot of things over my sports career and business life, and this is one of the more remarkable ones. So no, I think you hit on all points, and I'm very thankful and appreciative of you inviting me to come onto your podcast.
Well, thank you for your time. And I just remembered something too. We have a lot of CEOs and founders that listen. If you're a CEO and founder of an organization and you want to learn more about how you can increase the productivity and happiness of your employees, reach out to Gary, grab one for yourself, try it. You never know. This could be something that, if you invest money into certain things, invest in the productivity of your team. And this is a great way to do that. So Gary, thank you for being here. Thank you all for listening. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.